This is a booktube video. This is the second video on Les Miserables. Check out the first one. I am going to read you direct sentences. Some of outstanding for content, over outstanding content. These are some of my favorite interesting sentences, okay? Abuses existed. I combated them. Tyrannies existed. I destroyed them. Rights and principles existed. I proclaimed and confessed them. Our territory was invaded. I defended it. France was menaced. I offered my breast. I was not rich. I am poor. I have been one of the masters of the state. The vaults of the treasury were encumbered with a specie to such a degree that we were forced to shore up the walls which were on the point of bursting beneath the weight of gold and silver. Here's another sentence. Yes, the brutalities of progress are called revolutions. When they are over, this fact is recognized, that the human race has been treated harshly, but that it has progressed. Another quote, the police was very badly organized, moreover, because there was no love lost between the prefect and the mayor, who sought to injure each other by making things happen. It behooveth wise people to play the part of their own police and guard themselves well. And care must be taken to duly close, bar, and barricade their houses and fasten the doors well. I found an interesting article online called The Sewer and the Prostitute in Les Miserables, From Regulation to Redemption. I found that on the 19th century French studies website. I don't even know how to say some of these words because, it came from France, so they're probably, just words you don't see all the time. But the Amphictyons had 2 sittings a year, one at Delphos, the seat of the gods, the other at Thermopylae, the place of heroes. Europe will have her Amphictyons. The globe will have its Amphictyons. France bears this sublime future in her breast. This is the gestation of the 19th century. That which Greek sketched out is worthy of being finished by France. Listen to me, you newly valiant artisan, man of the people. I revere you. Yes, you clearly behold the future. Yes, you are right. You had neither father nor mother, Fully. You adopted humanity for your mother and right for your father. Here's an interesting one. The Society of the Rights of Man engendered the Society of Action. These were impatient individuals who broke away and hastened ahead. Other associations sought to recruit themselves from the great mother societies. the members of sections complained that they were torn asunder, thus the Gaelic Society and the Committee of Organization of the Municipalities, thus the Association for the Liberty of the Press, for individual liberty, for the instruction of the people against indirect taxes, then the Society of Equal Working Men, which was divided into 3 fractions, the levelers, the communists, and the reformers. Then the Army of the Bastilles, a sort of cohort organization on a military footing, 4 men commanded by a corporal, 10 by a sergeant, 20 by a sub-lieutenant, 40 by a lieutenant. There were never more than 5 men who knew each other, creation where precaution is combined with audacity and which seemed stamped with the genius of Venice. The Central Committee, which was at the head, had 2 arms, the Society of Action and the Army of the Bastilles. A Legitimists Association, the Chevaliers of Fidelity, stirred about among these Republican affiliations. It was denounced and reputed there. The Parisian societies had ramifications in the principal cities, Lyon, Nantes, Lille, and Marseilles, and each had its Society of the Rights of Man, the Charbonnier, and the Freemen. All had a revolutionary society which was called the Cogord. We have already mentioned this word. There's a quote right in there, says, "We are going to fling the government to the earth." That's good. A third of Paris was in the hand of rioters. The conflict had begun on a gigantic scale at all points as a result of the disarming domiciliary visits, and armors shops hastily invaded. Was the combat which had begun with the throwing of stones was continued with gunshots. At about 6 in the evening, the passage de Simon became the field of battle. The uprising was at one end. The troops were at the other. They fired from one gate to the other. An observer, a dreamer, the author of this book, who had gone to get a near view of the volcano, found himself in the passage between 2 fires. I'm not going to read you the whole book. Obviously, this is a 61-hour book. This is just some of my favorite inspiring paragraphs that I hope that makes you want to read it. About the body of a mason who was killed by a gunshot wound lay in Rue de la Perle. And then on the right bank, the left bank, and the quays and the boulevards and the Latin country and the quarter of Hales, panting men, artisans, students, members of sections, they read proclamations to shout and shouted, "To arms!" Broke the street lanterns, unharnessed the carriages, unpaved the streets, broke in the doors of the houses, uprooted the trees from which the cellars, rolled out the hogsheads, heaping up paving stones, rough slabs, furniture, planks, and made barricades. They forced the bourgeoisie to assist them. They entered the dwellings of women and forced them to hand over their swords and their guns in the absence of their husbands. They wrote on the door with whiting, "The arms have been delivered." How about this one? On the 5th of June, accordingly a day mingled with rain and sun, General Lamarck's funeral procession traversed Paris with official military pomp, somewhat augmented through precaution. 2 battalions with draped drums and reversed arms, 10,000 National Guards with their swords at their sides escorted the coffin. The hearse was drawn by the young men. The officers of the Invalids came immediately behind it, bearing laurel branches. Then came an innumerable strange, agitated multitude, the sectionaries of the friends of the people, the law school, the medical school, refugees of all nationalities, Spanish, Italian, German, and Polish flags, tricolored horizontal banners, every possible sort of banner, children waving green boughs, stonecutters, carpenters who were on strike at the moment, printers were recognized by their paper caps. Paper caps. There's something in there that says the destruction of machines, the pillage of warehouses, the breaking of rails, the demolition of docks, the false routes of the multitude, the refusal by the people of justice, the refusal by the people of justice to progress. Ramus was assassinated by students. Rousseau was driven out of Switzerland and stoned. This is a revolt. Israel against Moses, Athens against Phoenicia, Rome against Cicero. This is an uprising, a battle against the Bastille. That is an insurrection. The soldiers against Alexander, the sailors against Christopher Columbus. This is the same revolt, an impious revolt. Why? Because Alexander is doing for Asia with the sword that which Christopher Columbus is doing for America with the compass. Alexander, like Columbus, is finding a world. This is a 6-year book. I'm trying to make it not too long here, but we got so many. How about Jacqueries are the earthquake of the people? Hence, if the ill fortune of the time so wills it, those fearful commotions which were formerly called Jacqueries, besides which purely political agitations of the merest child's play, which are no longer the conflict of the oppressed and the oppressor, but the revolt of discomfort against comfort, then everything crumbles. Jacqueries are the earthquakes of the people. Slang lives on the language. Slang is the dialect of corruption, quickly becomes corrupted itself. Idleness is a mother with a son named Theft and a daughter named Hunger. This word is probably in French, but it's a terrible word. Pigridia. Pigratia. Pigridia is a terrible word. It engenders a whole world. La Pegri, for which read theft, and a hell, La Pegrenee, for which read hunger. Hunger and theft. Sounds like Medicaid. This is an interesting one. In a dark, free masonry of evil, of which she formed a part, everything is known, all secrets are kept, and all lend mutual aid. Mutual aid. Interesting one. How about the hardest of all work is thieving. Believe me, do not undertake the painful profession of an idle man. It is not comfortable to become a rascal. A couple skulls in there. Because this was definitely a war story. Like it was set like with like a backdrop of the war. It says the escort troop cursed. Men in chains did not utter a syllable. From the time to time their sound of a blow became audible as the cudgels descended on shoulder blades or skulls. Some of these men were yawning. The rags were terrible. prisoners. God. The sun was declining. A very rare passers on the Boulevard du Maine pulled off their hats to an old-fashioned hearse ornamented with skulls and crossbones and tears. The hearse contained the coffin covered with a white cloth, over which spread a large black cross like a huge corpse with drooping arms. There's an old chapter called The Trap. The sentence reads, the third, a man with a thick-set shoulders, not so slender at first. He held in his hand an enormous key stolen from the door of the prison. All the chapters. The chapter's called Trap. Enormous key stolen from the door of the prison is what I clicked on here. How about, I read that quote in the other one. Courage does not fear crime. Honesty does not fear authority. Plan the trap. Here it is. The person with whom he was not acquainted, otherwise by sight, was to be veiled into a trap that very evening, that as he occupied the room adjoining the den, Marius Pontmercy, a lawyer, had heard the whole plot through the partition, that the wretch who had planned the trap was a certain Jondrette, that there would be accomplices, probably some prowlers of the barriers, among others a certain Pachan, alias Container, alias Breganale. Moreover, the revolutionary fever was growing. Not a point in Paris nor in France was exempt from it. The artery was beating everywhere, like those membranes which arise from certain inflammations and form in the human body. The network of secret societies began to spread all over the country. From the Association of the Friends of the People, which was at the same time public and secret, sprang the Society of the Rights of Man, which also dated from one of the orders of the day, Pluvos, year 40 of the Republican era, which was destined to survive even the mandate of the Court of Assize, which pronounced its dissolution, and which did not hesitate to bestow on its section significant names like Pikes, Tocsin, Signal Cannon, Vigarian Cap, January 21st, the Beggars, the Vagabonds, Forward March, Level, Robespierre, Caira. The Society of the Rights of Man engendered the Society of Action. These were impatient individuals who broke away and hastened ahead. Other associations sought to recruit themselves from the great mother societies. Talks about a baron and a lawyer. It says, whenever he was greatly agitated, she listened, and the old man was saying, if you were not a fool, you would know that one cannot be a baron and a lawyer at the same time. Demolish a government just to see the effect of it. That's what a student does in his 11th year. He had nosed about the law but did not practice it, for he had taken for his device, never a lawyer, and for his armorial bearings, a nightstand which was visible, a square cap. Enraged democratic spirit was a spirit no, it was an enterprise of enthrallment in the campaign, the object of the French soldier, the son of democracy, was the conquest of a yoke for others. They were all bandits in the service of Robespierre. All who served Bonaparte were brigands. They were all traitors who betrayed their legitimate king. All cowards who fled before the Prussians and the English at Waterloo. There was a headstrong little man who hated Napoleon. To be ultra is to go beyond, is to attack the scepter in the name of the throne and the mitre in the name of the altar. It is to ill-treat the thing which one is dragging. It is to kick over the traces. It is to cavil at the faggot on the score of the amount of cooking received by heretics. It is to reproach the idol with small amounts of idolatry. It is to insult the excess of respect. It is to discover that the Pope is not sufficiently papish, and that the king is not sufficiently royal, and that night has too much light.